get you. We're gonna get you. Not another peep. Time to go to sleep.
It started during my first class. One day, a group of us was walking together along campus, and slowly members began branching off. It ended up as just myself and a guy who I was not inclined to befriend. Only knew his name, but I didn't want to be rude and not keep walking along with him. He asked me where I was going, and I told him I normally take a nap between classes and was going into my dorm. He asked if he could see my suite. Normally, this would be a no-brainer red flag, but my particular building was renowned for being fancy, and others frequently asked to see inside. I say, sure, not wanting to be mean, and thinking this guy will take a quick look around and give the typical jealous comments, then leave. We went inside and I showed him the basics, doing so in a way that we ended back at the entrance of the suite. This whole time he wasn't saying much, and I was only announcing things dryly, so I was confident when I said a quick, "It's pretty nice, see you around," that he was going to take his leave. I turned around and went to my room. I did not show him any rooms or say where anyone stayed, and a few minutes later, as I was setting my stuff down, I turned around, and there he was in the doorway. He was silent. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to invite him in. I wanted him to go. I just looked at him and then started picking up stuff and moving it around, trying to look busy. He slowly walked a couple of steps into the room and asked, "Have you done the coursework yet?" And I told him, "No." By this time, I assume he is trying to hang out, and I tell him again that I'm planning on napping. He doesn't even skip a beat and says, "That's okay. I can watch you sleep and help you with it after." A smile, no tone, then silence again. I immediately told him he needed to leave, and I followed him until he actually went out of the locking doors, and I knew he couldn't follow me back in. I told a lot of my friends about this, and they were heavily creeped out and made a point to not leave us alone again, ever. We finished the year out, and I hadn't thought about the guy in a long time. I didn't know anything about him at all, just his name. Fast forward a year and some change to the next summer, when I was taking a bus ride home from a different part of campus, so not my normal route. We got to one of the points where the bus stopped and waited until a certain time before it could leave again, and everyone else that had been on the bus got off at that stop. At this point, the driver started talking to me and asking a lot of questions. I didn't think anything weird at first and answered what I thought were idle chat questions, like, so which apartment do you live in, and what kind of classes are you taking? Then, as more and more questions just kept coming, I started to feel uneasy with his mannerisms and became extremely vague in my answers. I still don't know if he always intended to tell me this, but then he stopped peppering me with questions and began spilling a story about how his son was in my math class the previous year, and he knew all about me and started giving me a lot of family details. It was at this point that I realized his son was the guy who wanted to watch me sleep. All the details fit, but I had to know for sure, so I asked if his son was called blank. He smiled and said, yes. He then mentioned how he would like to start riding bikes with me, and asked would I ride bikes with him and his son. I was gathering my stuff by this point, and had decided to get off the bus. There were 2 doors, one at the front and one halfway, which was closest to me. The doors stay open while the bus is at these stops so people can hop off and on, and the driver normally gets off and takes a break. As I was getting my stuff and getting up, the doors halfway shut. I looked again at the driver. He was an older man, but much larger than my petite frame and build. He was now standing facing me with the front door still open. He asked again, "Will you ride bikes with us?" I wanted off that bus, and think the only way to pacify him was to say yes. So I say yes and make my way to the front door, not knowing how to get around him. He looked pleased, but asked where I was going. I tried to tell him I decided to walk home, but he still kept blocking my way and then tried to talk me out of it. I was firm in that I wanted to walk from there, but he just wouldn't move. So now I'm standing in front of him wishing to move, but my body is frozen in place. Slowly, he decided, "Give me your number and I'll let you go." I really didn't want to do this, but I also wanted off that bus immediately. My first thought was to give a fake, but I'm so glad I didn't as he immediately dialed the number. It was a test. Seeing my phone ring and watching me save his contact information, he moved enough that I could slide by and make it off the bus. After making it home, I went to block his number and already had multiple missed calls and a voicemail, just him breathing. I reported the situation, and I didn't see him on a bus for a long time. But around a year later, I was getting on another bus and noticed he was back. I've never covered my face and backed off a public transit faster. Let's never meet again, father or son. My liver had been deteriorating for many years, and I was eventually informed by my specialist that I would need a new one. I was briefed by the transplant team on all facets of the procedure, including the typical waiting time, false starts, the 8-hour operation, and the lengthy recovery. Early on a July morning in 2017, my girlfriend received the call for us to make our way to the hospital. We were informed not to get our hopes up as the donor organ might be unsuitable for transplant. But to my surprise, it was not long before I was saying goodbye to my girlfriend and they wheeled me into the operating theater. After many weird dreams, I woke up to the smiling faces of my girlfriend and the medical staff. Why were they all smiling? Well, it was now 2 weeks after the operation, during which I had developed a high fever that they could not explain or treat. Over the following weeks, I was told by my girlfriend and the intensive care nurses of all the crazy things that I said and tried to do during that initial fortnight. Honestly, if I had a clipboard and notepad, I could have ticked off each weird dream I had, with what they were recounting. All except the first dream, which had been very vivid and left a lasting impression on me. The dream, or rather experience, was different, particularly after the surgeon told me that I had in fact died twice during the operation, and to take things easy during my recovery. I had heard of the term near-death experience, NDE, but it has only been during the last 9 months that I have learned more about this subject. This is what I recall. I was being transported on a bed or gurney through white French doors into a large room. The light filtering into the room had an orange tinge, like there was a dust storm outside, and beside me I could hear my girlfriend pleading with someone that I needed help. The person kept repeating that I shouldn't be here and I had to leave. The male voice was familiar to me. The message was delivered in a calm, controlled, and neutral tone, and I realized I had stopped moving. There were no bumps or sounds, just the conversation behind me, with my girlfriend's tone getting more frantic. I was now getting annoyed, so I tried to get off the bed to turn around and eyeball this person, but I couldn't move my legs. I looked down and I realized I had a huge hole in my right-hand side, just under my ribs. There was no blood and there was no pain. I looked around and saw that the room was filled with other injured people on stretchers, gurneys, and beds, all looking down at themselves with blank looks on their faces. It looked something like the triage in MASH, but with nobody looking after them. No blood, no dressings, no sound, and everyone bathed in this orange light. The scene struck me as being like a waiting room or airport departure lounge. And suddenly, I had this urge to leave the place. So I tried to call my girlfriend, but no words came out. A warm feeling came over me and the room faded away, leaving only the orange light, and I didn't remember anything else. I can accept this episode as being a delirious dream, just as easily as I can look on it as a near-death experience. The difference is that a dream can be laughed off and to fade away with time, but this experience has been so profound it continues to come back and disturb me with more questions. Who was that person that was talking to my girlfriend, and why did he sound so familiar? What was the nature of the warm feeling, And was it related to me leaving this place or ending the dream? Strange, but I have experienced this warm feeling before. It was over 20 years ago when I was told that my eldest brother had succumbed to liver cancer and passed away. At that moment, I could feel myself falling to pieces, but then felt a warm, calming glow envelop me, along with the knowledge that he was released from a world of pain and in a better place. In the wash-up, was Big Brother or a guardian angel looking after me again? Or was this all just a dream?